is different for you as a nurse, right? This is talking about nurses who have gone outside of the regular place where we think about nurses being in the hospital on the bedside, which is phenomenal, but we're going to go a little bit beyond that. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your story, about what started you as a nurse, and then what made you kind of switch to saying, I'm going to do something different. You wouldn't mind telling us a little more about that?
Oh, sure. And thank you so much for having me on Nurses Outside the Box. I'm really excited to be a guest here and to talk to your tribe. So I always identified with medical. So it was really medical that I was wanting to get into. And one of my first jobs as a nurse was in a telemetry unit. And I remember my supervisor saying she was really glad she was a nurse and not a doctor. And I had always thought I should be a doctor. And that stuck with me all those years. And then I kind of drifted out because of family life. And I had 5 kids. And then I was a single parent with 5 kids. So I started a medical transcription business. So it was still related, but it was not my voice. I was listening to other people talk. So it educated me a lot, and it gave me a chance to learn business. But I wasn't doing the patient care and the patient contact. So I thirsted to get back into it and eventually did. But by then I was much older and I didn't have all the hospital or clinical experience I needed. And so I was like, how do I get back into this? Kept my nursing license up. And how do I catch up on education? And then I realized that I learned about coaching at that point. So my entry point was really through coaching. So I went through Well Coaches, got a coaching certification through Well Coaches, and looked for jobs. And the only people that I could find at the time in the Boston area, which is where I'm from, looking for coaches were integrative functional medicine type practices, those having to do with prevention. So it was serendipitous that I started learning about prevention. And then I was like, there's no way I want to go back to helping people just with remedies of disease and a pill for an ill, or when I can prevent it, when I realized I can prevent it. And since then, I've been really looking for ways to spread that word and educate myself on a more prevention and wellness angle or entry point. And as I did that, and this is where I think you and I connected, people said, well, do you still work as a nurse? And that rubbed me the wrong way, because I'm like, I identify as a nurse. And I remembered what my supervisor said many years back at University Hospital in Boston on the telemetry unit, where she said, I'm so happy I'm not a doctor. And I started to feel good about that, instead of like I missed my calling, and I think I know more because of it, because I've been more open-minded. I've come at it from, what's going to suit my needs. And I've been really firm about saying, yes, I am still a nurse. This is nursing. This is education. And this is applying nursing in a different way than you're used to. So just really breaking out of the box is exactly how I felt of the title. And I had heard of nurse entrepreneurs before, but really didn't know how to connect with them. And I think social media, just the advancement in technology has allowed us to do this. And I've really got to meet people globally now and have better mentors like you and examples of people who can show me different ways to express and carry out healthcare, true healthcare.
So I'm curious. So your podcast is all part of this new, right? This new business that you're doing, right? With the coaching and the nurse as well.
Yes,
Right?
part of it was the podcast Totally Well and Rock Bottom Syndicate, and also Confident Women Consortium. Those 3 podcasts and events that I've done have been my effort to build community and connect with other people who talk about health and wellness, fitness, personal development in their own language, in their own way. So really expanding our definition of what healthcare can be, and that it's a holistic in all components of the bigger picture. And again, not limiting your entry point. So if you're healthy, that doesn't, I think in the old days, we thought if you went for your annual physical, you were doing your share of what you're supposed to do for taking care of yourself. And I'm like, that's probably the smallest component of what you can do. what I would call health management and healthcare. And as a nurse, I want to help you know all of your ways of taking care of yourself instead of just showing you how to use insulin, and what insulin to take and how to adjust the dosage depending on what you ate. Why not eat differently and not get diabetes?
Right. Right. So how do you think those podcasts are enhancing nursing as a profession, or you as a person, right? Either one of them. But what do you
Well,
think?
for one, it's helping me meet more people so that I expand my view every day. I meet you and it's like, I didn't see that angle. I didn't see what you were doing. Later today, I'm going to talk with somebody about wellness in the corporate world. So as a nurse, I can go in and work for a company and help with mindset shifting, which is, why would a nurse want to talk about mindset, which is a big piece of what I'm doing now. It's that place in between. I know what to do and I just don't do it. So I realize there's a big gap there missing. So that education piece, the coaching piece, and then I can shift hats quickly and say, oh, and by the way, I know a lot about this other nutrition piece or the disease process and how you can reverse it. So having that nursing education is still really important for me to be able to carry out what I do, but being able to reach more people and influence more the wave of health and wellness is so important to be able to tap in through social media and podcasts or just audio video writing. It's just as if you sat down and wrote a book or wrote a blog, but it just is more fun because it's interactive and it's just a lot of fun to do. So I think the podcasts are here to stay for me anyway. It's a big piece of what I do now.
I love it. I love it, and I love the influence you're having and the interviews you're having. And you're right; it's such a more kind of connected way, right, of connecting as well. I'm curious about all the things that you're doing right now. What is your most favorite thing to do? And as being a nurse entrepreneur, right? What is your most favorite thing to do?
Well, I still very much love coaching. That's a component of what I do. So I do one-on-one coaching. I'm doing speaking now. So I'm getting in front of groups of people and delivering a message. So for example, Friday I went to our local senior citizen center and I had I think about 35 baby boomers who wanted to learn about CBD. And so I
Oh,
did a talk on CBD. So it's an opportunity because, again, I have all this foundation from nursing and education, and then all the functional medicine stuff that I've learned. I'm able to present a talk like that, and I can study up on topics very quickly because I have this nursing foundation. So, and then teaching classes. So I do teaching at the local hospital, again, for smaller groups. Um, and then one-on-one coaching, and that's really shifting more to that place where I know what to do, I just don't do it, because I'm finding my clients or patients they're coming in more and more educated, but they're still struggling, and then they go down this rabbit hole of I don't have good willpower, or they blame themselves, and medicine has done that with us, and so really shifting what they think they can or cannot do into, the question is, we shouldn't be saying I can't, it should be how can I, and helping people really discover ways to, to do that. And then also helping a little bit with coaches, other people who want to coach, or nurses who want to expand, and helping show them what I've done so far in terms of even the technical social media piece of it and the marketing and all that. We don't learn that in school. So I love to share a lot of the how-tos with people, like you just did with me on how to go live. I didn't understand this. And so now, I mean, I know how to go live separately, but you're making the message much more powerful because we're recording a podcast and we're going live. So that's something you just did for me as nurse to nurse.
there you go. Perfect. We help each other. If you have a nurse, right, and I promise to keep this to 15 minutes, so we'll keep this short. Joyce is, by the way, very much available on totalwellcoach.com. So just we'll also put it in the comments down below. So if you're curious about anything she's doing, please, right, feel free to reach out, Facebook, LinkedIn. I think you're on a lot of social media
Yeah,
platforms, right?
easy to find me. Yeah, yeah. I love questions, and I'm happy to chat with anybody if they just want to reach out and connect. I'd love the connection. I'd love to be able to help. I have lots of free stuff that I do and give a lot of value. That's one of the things I didn't realize as a nurse, and I know we're going to close here, but that concept of asking for help, if you just think this is beyond you to do something different and crack out of the box, just ask Anne-Marie, ask me for help. We're so happy to help you. And it's not going to cost you anything but your time and my time, because we do that. We just do that naturally. And yes, we have paid things that we do, but that little bit of, I've gotten so much help from people just 10 minutes at a time that it's definitely ask for help.
What would you say to nurse, as to the nurse who's listening to this and they said, "Oh my goodness, I actually want to do this, right? I want to either be a coach or I want to go into podcasts, whatever it is." What would you be your kind of 1 minute advice to her or him?
I would say, I know the answer to this. Go back to who you've always been. When I was struggling with that question, I remembered going to the high school with my son on career day. And at the time, I was running my medical transcription business and I wanted to be a coach. And so I owned that. I said, I am a coach. And I went there and told the group, even though I was just beginning, I had just finished my coach training. And I listened to the other people, the children, the, teenagers talking, and they all knew what they wanted to be. I mean, they knew so specifically. And I'm like, you know what? I bet I knew what I wanted to be back then too. And then it just got beaten out of me with all the shoulds. And so I thought about it and I was like, I was always interested in health and wellness. I always like read nutrition and medical journals and things like that. And I was a cheerleader. I was
Mm.
always, I was, somewhat of an athlete, but didn't know it yet. I didn't have those opportunities back then, but I became a hockey coach later in life and learned how to skate, to hockey skate and teach hockey. That's like a side gig that I do. But I just went back to, you're a cheerleader around health, and
Mm.
then finding like ways I can express that and not limiting my point of entry. That's huge. There's more than one way, and you got to be willing to pivot, pivot, pivot once you start the process, but go back to who you really are inside.
I love it. That's beautiful. I that's hopefully that's encouragement to someone who's listening to this. Again, reach out to Joyce on totalwellcoach.com. Thanks so much, Joyce. This was a wonderful conversation, and yeah, let's stay tuned for the next Nurses Outside the Box. I'm glad we're nurses outside the box, and let's have fun with doing that, right? Thanks so much, Joyce, and we'll
Very
talk
grateful.
soon.
Thank you, Emery.